So one of the questions I get asked a lot is, Jor, how much Bitcoin do I need? And my answer is usually it depends. It depends on your age. It depends on how much you know about Bitcoin, and it depends on your needs. And so I've talked about this several times now, and I think it was kind of confusing. So I want to do an updated version of this. And one of the guys I've been listening to for a while now, and who I disagree with on this, is British Hodl. And he says, get to 1 Bitcoin. And that's where I disagreed because I speak to a much different audience within this channel here. He's talking to the very wealthy people of the world, but I have changed my mind as well on this. And I think that if you are over the age of 60, you should do everything that you possibly can right now to get yourself 1 Bitcoin for your family. And so I'm going to share a spreadsheet here. The video is going to talk about 4 different age categories. So from 0 as an infant to your 20, and then 20 to 40, 40 to 60, and then 60 plus, and how you should be thinking about this asset known as Bitcoin. And it is different for everybody. And that's why I wanted to break through this or go through this and break it down. But let's bring up the video and see based on the age. This is specific to age. So I didn't include your knowledge. I didn't include your needs in this, but for the most part, the needs would be similar based on the ages. So let's start with this first one here, which is as an infant to the age of 20. The one thing that you have on your side is time. That's what you should be focused on, is just getting any amount of Bitcoin and letting time be your friend in this. And 5-year-olds probably aren't watching this video, so this is speaking towards the parents of those kids. And I really believe that if you were to today take everything or a portion of it or whatever you're comfortable with out of like your kid's savings account, like a GIC or an RESP, which is the education fund here in Canada. There's funds like that over the world. But if you just put that into Bitcoin and use time, imagine what this asset's going to be worth in 20 years from now. And imagine how much your children that age will benefit from holding Bitcoin. But the key there is that you have to get it today and you have to use time as your advantage. So the next part here, it says custody. So how should you be holding this asset based on your age? And in this, I put exchange or ETF. So historically within the Bitcoin world and the Bitcoin community, what I've noticed is people really obsess over not your keys, not your coins, which means that if you're holding Bitcoin, but you don't have the 12 words or your private key to that Bitcoin, you don't actually own that Bitcoin. It's just basically an IOU from somebody else. So examples of this would be holding Bitcoin on an exchange, holding Bitcoin in an ETF, holding Bitcoin on Lightning if you're using a custodial wallet. These are ways to hold Bitcoin without actually owning the Bitcoin. And so most people will tell you to buy Bitcoin and put it into self-custody, take ownership of that asset, get the private key, store it properly. And that is the real differentiator in Bitcoin, is that you can actually hold Bitcoin yourself. You don't need anybody's permission to use it. There's no third-party risk to somebody else taking that Bitcoin or having claim to that Bitcoin that they don't actually have. So my theory on this is that's not for everybody. Excuse me. I'm just coming off a week-long trip to Vegas for the conference and a wedding in Canmore, Alberta. So I'm a little bit under the weather, but I wanted to get this video out there for everybody because I think that this is very important. So my opinion on this is that I don't think self-custody is for everybody. I think it's for everybody eventually, but it's not for everybody right off the hop. And I think that we have done a very poor job as a Bitcoin community of forcing people to hold their own keys when they're not necessarily ready for it. It's very similar to giving somebody their driver's license before they've ever driven a car before. So when you learn to drive a car, typically you have somebody sitting right beside you there. They're telling you what to do, the techniques, what to look out for. They have an emergency brake there if you get going too fast. Most people, historically anyways, have not just been given the keys to a car and saying, here you go, hit the highway, have fun. So I think about the same way in Bitcoin. And so that's what I put here for the custody aspect of it. So from 0 to 20, I think that it should be a split of holding that Bitcoin in a tax efficient account, registered account, where that can grow over time. And when you go to cash it out in the future, you won't have to pay taxes on it. So that should be a portion of it. But the other part too there is that you should absolutely be taking self-custody of this asset, because this is going to be the future economy, the future financial system for this age. And I think the earlier that you can start teaching your kids about self-custody and the importance of holding your own keys and assets, I think the better. So you could do a split here between holding in an account where somebody else can manage it for you and you get the tax efficient breaks from it. Also a combination of learning how to self-custody that Bitcoin with the education aspect of it. So that's the first part, 0 to 20. Whoever's 0 to 20 right now and has any exposure to Bitcoin is going to do extremely well for themselves in the future. I really think that there's 10, 15-year-olds out there who are cutting grass, putting that into Bitcoin, or their parents are putting some of their profits into Bitcoin for them. They're going to not have to work past the age of like 30, 35, 40 maximum. And they're going to be able to focus on things that they actually enjoy. They're going to be able to build families and not have to worry about the financial stresses that the fiat system has put on us. So if you're 0 to 20 right now, you're sitting pretty. You might not know it yet, but you are sitting very pretty. So the next one here is age 20 to 40. And during this period, at that age, your focus should be on adding value. You add value to the world. You create ways to generate cash or sats. And if you're generating cash, whatever that looks like to you, through a job, through a business, through cutting grass, through selling things around the house, whatever that is, you convert that into Bitcoin. So you add value to the world and you convert that into Bitcoin. You save that wealth, that time and energy in Bitcoin. And you also have time on your side here. So that's why it's not a huge rush for anybody 20 to 40 to get as much as they can, because you should be more focused on finding ways to generate cash and sats flow for the coming years. Get some Bitcoin, but don't obsess over it. Obsess over adding value to the world, because that's going to pay off in the long term. You got to be thinking about the long term with all of this stuff. So in terms of custody, I think that because people aged 20 to 40 are a little bit more comfortable with technology, they're a little bit more capable, I find. You should spend a couple months maybe holding it on an exchange. The one thing I'd say about the exchanges, I would use almost any exchange except for Coinbase. I just don't trust them. And I think that there are better exchanges to use than Coinbase. So you can spend a couple months holding your Bitcoin with an exchange. That's fine to me. Even a year. You know, if you're obsessed over adding value to the world, you might not have time to learn how to secure that Bitcoin properly. And so it's fine there. There's been a lot more people historically lose their Bitcoin because they didn't know how to manage it yet. They weren't ready for that step than there were from people losing it on an exchange. So months to years, no real rush there. But again, obsess about adding value. Get the cash flow, convert that cash into sats, and just build on that. Age 40 to 60. This is kind of like your transition years. And it's kind of a weird age, I think, because you are somewhat newer to the internet, but you still remember the world before all of this technology was in place. And you're also getting ready for retirement. And you probably have a couple kids running around. You're very busy driving them to the hockey rink, the golf course, the baseball field. And so you might not have as much time to focus on Bitcoin as other people would. And so this is a transition. And I want you to think about this as if you're moving from the fiat system, the Federal Reserve dollar system that we've grown up in, and you're transitioning to this new economy that's built around Bitcoin. And so you probably have some sort of a retirement account from working for 20, 30, 40 years that you could start swapping some of those assets into Bitcoin or Bitcoin related products. And again, because you have so much going on in your life at this time, between kids, you probably have a pretty heavy load at work based on your age. I think that it's okay to leave your Bitcoin in custody for years. And again, there's going to be Bitcoiners out there who in the comments don't like this approach. But again, you have other things going on in your life. And I don't want that to be a detraction from owning a piece of Bitcoin or a bunch of sats. So start transitioning your existing assets from the legacy system, your retirement account, some of your savings account, whatever that may be, maybe a rental home. Start transitioning that into Bitcoin. let somebody else look after it. Do your research on who are the best custodians of Bitcoin, and then you can leave it with them for years. There's no rush on that. Again, unpopular opinion there, but your focus is on other things during that time of your life. So that's 40 to 60. And the last one here is 60 plus. And this is the age group that I said you should be doing everything that you can right now to get to 1 Bitcoin for your family. You have no idea what that 1 Bitcoin is going to unlock for generations to come within your family. And I really, really, really mean that. And the nice thing about being 60 plus, and this is why I'm so focused on getting to 1 Bitcoin as a 60 plus, is because you worked for 40 years. You have a retirement fund. You have a lot of capital from the existing system that you could allocate to Bitcoin instead. A lot of people who are 25 years old, 35 years old, we don't have that. We don't have that. We haven't put in the work like the baby boomers have. You've put in the work. You went to your job for 40 years. You have a nice retirement, but that retirement fund is going to melt. It's a melting ice cube right now. If you're holding anything other than Bitcoin right now, everything else is going to trend towards zero against Bitcoin. So you should take some of that existing capital that you've earned through the years and put that into Bitcoin. Make sure you get at least 1 Bitcoin. That is absolutely vital at this point. And the longer you wait to do that, the more assets you're going to have to exchange for that Bitcoin down the road. So this is kind of your preservation phase. This is your legacy. You want to hold that in Bitcoin because, again, everything else is going to melt away over time. Whether you understand that or not, it's going to melt. And you're going to leave your family with nothing, literally nothing. And so for this one, I think that I put 6 months here because it's important that people of this age, and maybe if you're 60, you're still working full time, this might be a different answer. But if you're 65, if you're retired, and if you have the time to put into learning about Bitcoin, you will not only do a good service for the Bitcoin that you own, but for your family, because you're going to be able to educate them on how to protect the Bitcoin. This is a dynasty that you're building here, and you can be the first one in your family to start this dynasty. So it's securing your Bitcoin, but it's also learning about Bitcoin and becoming very well-rounded in Bitcoin so you can educate your family on keeping that Bitcoin. Because if you got 1 Bitcoin and something were to happen to you, you pass away, and you haven't educated your family on Bitcoin, it's going to be gone. It's going to be all for nothing. They're going to blow it on something stupid like a new cabin or a new car or whatever that is. It is very important to learn this so that you can pass on that knowledge to your kids and their kids. And so that's why I think that you can leave it in there for about 6 months while you kind of get your feet underneath you, but you should be actively learning about Bitcoin and self-custody. And again, if you don't have anybody that you can trust, if you don't have the base, the foundation of where to look, who you can trust, you can hire somebody. So basically, when you're learning about Bitcoin security and self-custody, you have 2 options. You have to make an investment of 2 ways. Number 1, your time. And that's why I put for 60 plus, being retired, you should have a little bit more time than somebody who's 40 years old, 45 years old. But the other one is you can invest capital. You can pay somebody or hire somebody to help you with it. And Bitcoin Citadel, the company that we have, we do offer solutions in advisory, self-custody, security, private key management, UTXOs, all these different things, and especially inheritance. So that's kind of what I would say. There's no real amounts other than the 60 plus in terms of how much Bitcoin you need today. But this is what you should be focused on. And this is how long you should be trusting others with your Bitcoin based on your age. So a couple key points here that I want to focus on before we end the video. And at this point, I'll just mention quickly here. This channel, 88 Sats Radio, is 100% funded by the community. We do not have any sponsors. We never will have any sponsors. And I think it's important to be able to retain my voice and not be influenced by any companies pushing different products or services. So if you don't mind, and if you've been enjoying this content, if you want me to keep pushing this message out there, subscribe. That's one way to do it. Not my favorite, but it's a way to do it. Comment on the video, like the video, share the video. And the best way to do is that little QR code up by the screen there. That is Arnie's wallet, and you can send sats. If you're familiar with it, if you know how to use Lightning, you can send sats. And I also have my on-chain address in the comments, the pinned comment, and in the show notes. So again, we want to keep this. I want to be the largest YouTube Bitcoin channel without any sponsors. That's my goal. So the key points here from this video, that as you learn more about Bitcoin, you start allocating more to Bitcoin. And I think the one thing that people run into with this is they buy a little bit, they keep learning, they want to buy more. And by the time that comes, Bitcoin is 2 or 3x from there. So I think it's important to allocate as much as you feel comfortable with today, continue learning and continue allocating. Don't just put a toe into this. And because again, the more you get into this, more you understand Bitcoin, the more you realize that this is the only asset today that matters. But don't rush it. Another point here, and this is actually from my buddy Rajat. This is what his philosophy and his theory is, that he recommends people hold Bitcoin and cash. And I know that's not going to be for everybody today, but that is something that you want to get to. So having some physical cash around the house is very important. Cash in the bank isn't really yours. It's just like holding Bitcoin on an exchange. It's an IOU from the bank. So have some physical cash safely at your house, just in case anything were to happen, kind of like an emergency fund, but also USDT. And I think the USDT is going to be extremely powerful. There's a lot of things being built around stablecoins, USDT with Tether. And it's a really good way to have the stability of the dollar, the US dollar, without anybody's permission, without anybody being able to rug you, with being able to hold those dollars just like you hold Bitcoin with 12 words. And the Aqua wallet is what I recommend for that. You can hold Bitcoin, you can hold Bitcoin on Lightning, on Liquid, and you can also hold USDT within that wallet. And you can take that 12 words in your private key and hold that. So I know there's a lot of debate and worry around the USDT stablecoins, but I think it is going to be a very powerful tool for people going forward here. Again, swap your assets now to increase your sats. The longer you wait to make this move, the less sats you're going to end up with. That's what has happened historically. And we're not even through the steep part of this S curve for Bitcoin adoption yet. So don't procrastinate here. You have to take this stuff seriously and you have to act quickly. Self-custody is obviously the end goal. And I think I was pretty clear on that from the beginning. That's the real unlock for Bitcoin, is you can actually, it's the only asset that you can truly own. And I have a lot of videos talking about that, so I'm not going to get into it today. But self-custody is the focus, but it should not be rushed. Again, most people who lose Bitcoin do it because they go too fast. They think they know more than they do. They don't know how to protect their private key, and they lose their Bitcoin because of that. So that's the end goal, but that's not the first step. And again, the goal here is to accumulate sats and expand your understanding of Bitcoin. And I think the best way to do that right now is to join our 365 days of Bitcoin. It's a course I've been doing every single day for 2025. I've posted one video about Bitcoin. They're about 10 or 15 minutes long. I'm going to also put the link in the pinned comment and in the show notes for this. So consider joining. It's $21 a month. You join that today, you're going to have access to 154 videos about Bitcoin. There's no better way to learn about Bitcoin if you're willing to put in some time than the 365 days of Bitcoin course. And it's on Patreon right now, but I'm also setting up a school membership specifically for 365. I think that it's imperative that people understand this. It's not something that you can learn in a 2-hour video or a podcast or even a course. This is something that takes a deep level of understanding that only comes through time. So this is my email here, jor@bitcoincitadel.net. I'll also put it on the screen here if I can find it. And you can contact me if you have any questions, if you want to set up a meeting to discuss any of this, if you need help with your security, protecting your private keys, managing your UTXOs, any of that stuff, and especially your inheritance. I think that is the most overlooked part of Bitcoin right now. And we have the best solution that I've found at Bitcoin Citadel. And if you want to join the 365 days of Bitcoin, but you don't want to put in your credit card anywhere, we can do that now. So you can pay in sats. I'll give you a little discount on that for paying in Bitcoin, but that is the way to get a hold of me there, jor@bitcoincitadel.net. And keep in mind here that for the next couple months anyways, at least 2 months, there's going to be some changes to the channel. So I'm not going to be doing the daily show anymore on the channel. I'm going to be focusing a lot of my time and energy to the community, living the future community, the 365 days of Bitcoin. And so we're still going to be doing a daily live show. It's just going to be for the community. So you can actually join for a $5 a month tier, and you can get access to the shows every day. And there's going to be a different, I'm actually going to be doing the 365 days of Bitcoin, a different topic within Bitcoin every day. We're going to do that live for the community. So that's what I would say. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it makes sense. I hope this was a little less confusing than the last one I posted. But that's what I got for you. So again, I ask if you've been enjoying this stuff, if you want to continue pushing this thing forward. I think it's imperative that we have people within the space that are not influenced by sponsors and outside sources. And I'm going to do my best to maintain that on the channel here. So again, you can send it to this QR code, or you can send some sats to bitcoinjourney@speed.app. So that's all I got for you today. I hope you're having the best day of your life today, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.